Welcome to the Just Blog Baby podcast for this Saturday, October 4th. This is the second episode of our new series on YouTube where we bring you a weekly podcast as well as game previews whenever it comes. We haven't had a podcast since Dennis Allen's been fired, as I recently have been moving into my new job. So I didn't have internet over the weekend, so we didn't preview the Wembley game or anything after that. So this is a nice little introduction, a nice little review of what has all happened during the bye week as we head into the Raiders. Obviously don't play after the London game. Now there's no Dennis Allen, and with me is, as always, co-host Rory Anderson, who obviously I've missed. I haven't heard from Rory in a while. This is the first time we've really even talked since I've started moving. I've been so busy. But it's a big podcast where we're breaking down everything about the Dennis Allen firing, which obviously was an inevitability. And I think everyone really saw it coming once the Raiders were 0-4 after the game in London, which was an embarrassment. It was probably the worst I've covered. Obviously, I've only been covering the last two seasons, but there were some embarrassing losses last year. But the Oakland Raiders hit rock bottom. So, really, Rory, what's your whole take on this as we look at Tony Sparano as the interim head coach?
Well, pretty much as I wrote with this week's column, Dennis Allen, he reaped what he sowed. I mean, he never was willing, or at least it seemed like he was never really willing to take charge, get a hold of what was happening in Oakland, and because of that, he essentially lost his job for it. If you're not willing to just take the reins, own your job, and go and fix the things that need to be fixed, then you're going to end up paying for it with your job, and that's just how it goes. And Dennis Allen was he was a calm guy. It's kind of the way he rolled, and I think he had the right demeanor for the job at the time. And for the last couple of years, with all the destruction that was happening, with the way things went, with the plant, with everything that had to happen, you don't really want a very panicky, or a loose cannon as your head coach. You want someone who's going to be professional, calm. He's not going to lose his lid or anything. So I think he was probably, the right coach to go and suffer through 2 years of garbage, and then when he doesn't win, it was time to change the culture. You change the culture again. And the thing is, the Raiders don't have an identity. And maybe with Tony Sparano, they'll get an identity. And from there, they can build something. And that's really what has to happen. So Dennis Allen's gone now. It simply is what it is. And what the Raiders need to do is find some wins. And I'll say the same thing about Tony Sparano that I did about Dennis Allen. If Tony Sparano does not get a hold of his coordinators and change what they do, or at least the sort of plays they're calling, he's not going to have any success either. I know Sparano's been saying he's going to let Olsen call plays on offense. That doesn't mean he can't control the sort of plays he calls. Let's see if he redefines what the playbook is, how he's going to go about with the scheme. Let's see if things are a little bit more aggressive. And that's really, we're not going to be able to know any of that until we actually see games happening. But I did do a nice little breakdown with the column. I pulled some bits out of a couple of games out of all the games I did research on. I spent so much time this week doing research on Tony Sparano coaching. I kind of started just 4 or 5. I did like 4 games from 2009, 10, and 11. It was stuff when he was OC and the Jets, and just seeing different things. And so you check out the column. I got a couple of screen caps in there to give you an idea of some of the things he likes to do. So, I mean, we'll have to see. Nobody's really going to know what we're going to get until we see it on Sunday.
Yeah, I read your column, obviously, because I edited a little bit of it. So I read almost everyone's columns on staff, so it was good. I suggest everyone goes and looks at. There's a lot of good screen caps of Sparano, but really, I think the prevailing thought is nothing really is going to get better in this season. I think when you fire a head coach mid-season in a situation like the Raiders, where everything is going terribly, it's really hard for me to consider things getting to a point where Tony Sparano is going to be around. I think the problem is now there's going to be a big distraction because the Raiders have a lot of players who could be cut because they didn't commit a lot of guaranteed money to any of these veterans who came in. And with rumors already swirling about bringing in Jon Gruden's name, which we'll address because obviously it's the biggest thing. And I know a lot of people are in the camp that, Gruden's definitely going to come back, or are in the other camp of, there's no way he's going to leave Monday Night Football. And a lot of people have weighed in. But I think the number one question is, and I know MondayMorningQuarterback.com wrote about this, is it really worth it? Because of the fact that Jon Gruden's going to want the highest paid coaching salary in the National Football League, in addition to a lot of personnel power. And in Tampa Bay, we learned the personnel thing may be a thing. I mean, he's been so far around for the game to do an experiment where you're going to give him pretty much two very important positions in the building of your franchise. You're pretty much putting in all of the chips you have on the table on hoping you're going to draw a magical combination with Jon Gruden and hope that bringing someone back who was successful a decade ago is going to come back to that. And I think with all of the money involved, you could probably get a pretty good head coach like Wade Phillips or somebody and some rock star offensive defensive coordinators for the price tag of just Jon Gruden, and then also keep a general manager. I think that's the debate that you would like to have.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the players. The Raiders are looking at $25 million-ish that they can cut and be totally free of with all these free agents they brought in. You know, Donald Penn, I don't think he's going to get cut. He's played so well, I think they're going to keep him. But Lamar Woodley, Antonio Smith, Justin Tuck, I mean, all those guys, they were essentially on one-year guarantee deals. The only one who's not is Austin Howard, and he's going to be around for the long term. Young player, versatile. He's getting better as a new right guard. We'll see. You know, they could do some things, maybe kick him back out the right tackle next year. But the point is, they could cut pretty much everybody they brought in this year and look at somewhere in the vicinity, depending on how the cap rises, $90 million-ish in cap space next season. That'll kind of be the high end. And so, but when you look at the Raiders' position, I mean, I do think there's the possibility that Sperano could come in, kind of get command of what's happening with the coordinators and some of the play calling, and maybe go win 4 games, maybe 6. We'll see how it goes. It really just depends. I think Sperano, though, is going to come back for next year unless it's absolutely horrendous. He's signed through 2015. He's always going to be a good assistant head coach candidate. So I think the likelihood he's going to be back for any new coach, especially if they go down the route of a rookie head coach, like a highly paid, like a talented coordinator that's been sitting around for a long time, you know, the Bulls or Hortons, those kind of guys. You know, they're going to want a guy like Sperano around who's got the head coaching experience. So likelihood is I think he's going to be back next year. He's just not going to be a head coach, I don't think. You know, and we talked about Gruden. You know, I know people want Gruden really bad. I get it, and he's going to energize the fans and everything. But there's this assumption that goes around that Gruden is somehow going to make Derek Carr a good quarterback. He's never done that with a rookie quarterback. He has never groomed a young quarterback to be successful. And so I don't necessarily buy into it, to be perfectly honest. And that, to me, is the biggest risk. I think if you bring Gruden in, you run a serious risk of Carr not developing properly, because I don't necessarily think Gruden is the right kind of guy to groom him. I don't know. I've said before, I'm really not going to pick a dog in this race anymore. I just want the organization to get on the same page and choose a direction. Choose an identity, choose a direction. I don't care who it is. Just pick somebody and go and get everybody behind it. And, you know, we'll see where it goes from there. But I would put my money on, frankly, probably another rookie offensive or a rookie coordinator. Let me rephrase that. A rookie head coach that is a rock star, as an all-star kind of coordinator. And there's a long list of them that I think would be viable candidates. And you're right. If you go down that route, you're also looking at you can, you know, pair that person up with other good coordinators to run your defense or your offenses too. So we'll just have to see where it all goes. But I'm not entirely giving up on the season. I think Sperano could do some things. We'll just have to see. It all, like I said, it all comes down to what he's willing to do in terms of taking control of the coordinators and how things are run.
Yeah, I personally think that after the Dennis Allen situation, they're going to go with the guy who's head coach before, or as head coach in college. I think that's going to be one of the two. Mark Davis is going to spend a lot of money on his head coach. You're not going to get one of those guys that the people who love to break down film and break down every little thing that happens in a National Football League game are going to want. They're going to grab the guy that the average Joe is going to know, or the guy who's proven. They're going to spend that money on somebody who Mark Davis respects and knows is going to be a good coach, not someone who deserves the job or is due for a chance or has really put in his time at the coordinator position. I just don't think that's going to happen this time. I think after the Dennis Allen experiment, Mark Davis, for better or for worse, this isn't anything against those type of guys, because they could be very good head coaches, and the Raiders might be better off going that way. But I think they're going to get whoever wants to come who's a big name is going to take the money. That's just my assumption. Mike Davis is going to spend that money on a coach because you can spend the money on a coach if you really want to. And he wants to. Mike Davis, after all of this, wants to win. And I think after the slow rebuild, they're really going to try to get that type of head coach. I don't know if it's going to be Jon Gruden. I personally will not be vouching that hard for Gruden, as you may know. I think the personnel and the head coach is too much for me. I think if they had a personnel guy in addition to Jon Gruden, might be a chance because Andy Reid has a good relationship with his general manager. But it's not like Andy Reid went to Kansas City and got to call all the shots because he was a big name coach going at a team that's been crap for a while. So, and also I think, Rory, when we talk about the quarterback thing in Derek Carr, Gruden has that precipitation of things he's done after coaching because now he does the whole QB camp thing. So now people think because of that time he's spent in the booth, he has a greater understanding of the quarterback position and also in the draft sense. But I don't know. That's up for debate. I think he could because I don't think there's much difference in making Rich Gannon a good quarterback when he's an old quarterback and making Derek Carr a better quarterback or making Brad Johnson. He made some pretty bad quarterbacks good. I know you guys might know why I say Rich Gannon was a bad quarterback. But before Jon Gruden was the head coach and before he came to Oakland, Rich Gannon was a terrible 1990s quarterback who never panned out. It's the truth. So I'd say that Jon Gruden has taken very bad quarterbacks or slightly average quarterbacks, if you want to be nicer. Because I'm not going to say Rich Gannon's a very bad quarterback. Rich Gannon probably was waiting for the right opportunity and got it in Oakland. And also had a good relationship with Jon Gruden before the Bill Callahan era. So I don't know. With me, I really think it's the QB camp thing. Why people think that, and I think Jon Gruden could. But I'm not saying I think the Raiders will probably be better off not playing into his game because they're going to pay him a lot of money. The problem is Jon Gruden's only going to go into the NFL realm if he has a situation that probably won't work for the team that's going to hire him. Because that's the only way you're going to get it. I don't think Jon Gruden can do the whole have all the power situation. And I think the Oakland Raiders are probably better off, like I said, looking at a guy. If they want a proven guy, get a guy like Wade Phillips or get a guy who is available at the time or bring a guy in from college who might want to challenge. That's the type of situation you might want to find yourself in. Because if they're going to pay the money, I think they should pay the money for a guy who's inspired by wanting to be a head coach. Jon Gruden isn't inspired by anything. Jon Gruden's done it. He's won a Super Bowl. He calls Monday Night Football. Jon Gruden just loves to eat, take out room service, and then get all bloated and go out on Monday Night Football and talk about how great all these terrible quarterbacks are and yell Spider 2Y banana. That's what he likes to do. That's nothing against Jon Gruden. I hope Jon Gruden doesn't get hired now because if I ever have to talk to him and this ever catches his way, which it won't, because it's a mediocre podcast, as you may know, I'd be embarrassed for making that joke. But it's true. Jon Gruden loves that and just going out there and making bad Hooters commercials. The Corona commercials are good. I like the Corona commercials. But that's what Jon Gruden wants to do. I think Jon Gruden has earned and feels that he's earned the role he has and feels that role is pretty prestigious because it is. It's prestigious to be in the Monday Night Football booth. It is. It might not be on ABC anymore. It might not be the same as Howard Cosell being in there. But Warren Sapp even had this type of tangent this week where he's like, why would he ever come back to anybody? He did say a lot of rude things about the Raiders for the reasons, but I just don't see it working.
Yeah, Warren Sapp always says rude things about the Raiders.
Yeah. Dan Patrick's like, somebody's got to say something about Jon Gruden. And if they say funny things about the Raiders, definitely get them on.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue going the college route. I would like somebody who's got some college head coaching experience, who's a little outside the box, who's a little outside the norm. I mean, would you consider, I don't know, a Rich Rod maybe? Would you go down that route? See what he's doing in Arizona? I mean, okay, Michigan was a disaster, but he also did well at his previous stop before that. So I mean, do you want to go Rich Rod? I've mentioned Cutcliffe from Duke a few times. I would like that route. That's a guy who has a good working relationship with Peyton Manning. He knows how to coach up quarterbacks. I mean, there's a lot of guys in the college level I would be very happy to go after, specifically because they just think differently than what you see many times in the NFL. And I don't mean you have to go down what Philadelphia did with Chip Kelly. I don't necessarily mean, okay, go after Gus Malzahn and try to reproduce what they're doing in Philly. That's, whatever. I mean, realistically, what's happening in Philly, it's a pretty basic West Coast offense on hyperspeed. That's really all it is. And they throw in some vertical routes to mix it up a little bit. But it's essentially a West Coast offense. It's not – people like to think it's this very creative thing. It's not really. It's pretty basic. They just do it very fast. They execute the simplicity of it very, very well. So, if you want to go down that road, okay, fine. But I would like to see someone who does just have a different perspective. I'm not a big fan of doing retreads. I do think, though, a guy like a Wade Phillips could be a good defensive coordinator, although some people don't think so. Doesn't really matter. But I do think the idea of going down the route of grabbing a college head coach who has experience as a head coach to bring them up into the NFL, I think it's perfectly fine. I've even mentioned, one guy I've mentioned before who I think would be interesting would be Mora from UCLA. I want to see if he's a little bit different than he was in his first stop with Atlanta, if being at UCLA's changed the way he does things. So I think there's a lot of candidates. I think that's the nice thing where the Raiders are at. They're in a position to where, unlike last time around, they can actually attract somebody, I think. I think the Gruden thing's crazy like you do. I'm not necessarily sure if you're going to go get, Luke Shaw, or not Luke Shaw,
David Shaw.
I don't know if you're going to get David Shaw. There's mixing up my Shaws, and it wasn't even close. But I don't know if you're going to get a guy like David Shaw. But there's a lot of guys out there who I think could do that, who would be interested. And like I said, the Raiders, they now have a pool of, I would say, 12, 13 guys who are young players that are going to be good. They're going to play, significant parts of this football team, to certain degrees or another. And then you got a couple free agent guys who are going to be decent little pieces. You got a ton of cap space. You got draft picks. You're going to have more than likely one that's pretty high with a bunch of quarterbacks coming out and a few teams that are talented that may be looking for young quarterbacks. So you have potential to trade down and more picks. So, there's a lot of potential here. And I do think somebody who can look outside the box, work with, because I do think Reggie McKenzie is sticking around. That is one thing I do believe is going to happen, especially if they get someone who does not have a lot of NFL connections. If you go down that route and you get somebody who has not spent time in the NFL, they're not going to know a lot of good personnel guys. So I think in that case, you kind of have to keep Reggie McKenzie around because you don't really have much of another choice, at least not somebody who knows that particular head coach. But you can force them to work together. And in that case, I think you can have some success. And we'll just have to see where it goes from here. But I'm with you. I don't think the Gruden thing is happening. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think it's a good decision for the Raiders to go down that route. I think that would probably, to me, one of the worst things the Raiders could do is go down the Jon Gruden route, considering all the money, all the hype, everything that's going to come around it is just going to be out of control.
Yeah. I'll say some people may be misled by our soon-to-be award-winning Gruden Watch, if you've seen the Gruden Watch. I hope you've seen the Gruden Watch. It's great. You've seen the photo we mocked up for the Gruden Watch, right?
Yeah.
We had a USA Today Sports image on Fansided, and it was of Gruden's thing in Tampa Bay. That's the only image we have. So I told our developers, I was like, I want something for just for Jon Gruden posts. That's all I want. And they got the military binoculars. It's great. So we've been pumping the Gruden. I have no problem. I also have no problem because it's the big story. So hey.
Hey, look! If they do it, it's only more hits for us. It's only ups for us. If they go Jon Gruden, everything's gonna go A, and that's just gonna be total, huge readership and everything. So I have no problem pumping it up. For the actual practicality of it, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Nor do I think it's a good idea.
Oh, obviously, from a sports writer and sports journalist perspective, you want them to go Gruden. But I think no one's going to be disappointed because, like I said, the Raiders are going to go for a name, a big name. Also, before we get into more talking about coaches, a little bit of we need to thank the Just Blog Baby Nation, because we were the most read NFL website on Fansided for September, and the Raiders went 0-4. The Raiders went 0-4. So like my bosses are like, oh yeah, just for the record, if your team sucks, that's not an excuse anymore. So sorry guys. I don't know. I think it was funny.
You just made it worse for all your other fellow editors.
Yeah, I know. But thank you for that. I have appreciated the growth of the website and how many people come and spend time. Also, while we thank people, I'm going to apologize one more time for not having a podcast for so long. Every single day for like the last 6 days, somebody has been like, "Where's the podcast?" And I'm like, it was my first week at a new newspaper, and now I'm like the editor, so I'm not just a sports guy. So I've got to be there 9 to 5. So writing is not a problem, but definitely recording podcasts is a problem. You can't just record podcasts in a newsroom. I wish.
We actually, especially now doing the Google Hangouts, we actually got to set it up.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit more time, but it's all good. Yeah, we got a lot of good. I've been reading a lot of stuff going up. A lot of good staff writers out there producing a lot of good material. So I definitely could see why we'd be getting so many hits. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome to be out there and just having so much attention going our way. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm excited for this discussion about the coaching because I didn't get my 2 cents in. I actually like some of the names you threw out there. I like the caller thing. I jokingly said Rich Rodriguez on Thursday night, but that was also because Arizona.
I didn't see that.
Arizona was making me some money. I don't mind Rich Rodriguez. He's done a good job. I think the idea of bringing in a big college name is cool. I think that's a good idea if you want to get a name coach in there who would reach the criteria that both of us were talking about. Because you want a guy who's coming in to his prime and is at a forward going in his career. And see, we could talk with our hands now on the Just Blog Baby podcast. Talking with hands. That was me being going upwards right here. But anyways, yeah, but that's my point. A guy like Jon Gruden or a guy who's retired, like Bill Cowher, all those guys have done you think Bill Cowher gives a shit about the Oakland Raiders and helping the Oakland Raiders win? No. No. You think Mike Holmgren will give a shit either? No. You may want to, for the romanticism, think Jon Gruden gives a shit. But the minute something goes bad and the Raiders aren't good, Jon Gruden's going to be like, damn, I wish I was on that Monday Night Football bus eating ribs. Hey, having a couple beers. Probably, I'm not going to accuse him of being a Brett Musburger, but maybe going to Vegas in between the week, keeping it interesting. I don't know. Jon Gruden has a good life. I think everyone in America wishes they were Jon Gruden. But the minute Jon Gruden comes to the Oakland Raiders, and this is going to make me sound like Warren Sapp, but do you want to be on a team that might lose next season? No. That's the thing. If the Seattle Seahawks were like, hey, Jon Gruden, I think he'd be like, hey, Russell Wilson, do you know how to say spider 2Y banana? And then he'd be there. But I don't think he likes padding his resume. And you continue to just pad your resume on Monday Night Football.
Let's not forget, he also wants to be near his kids, too.
Yeah. That's
a big reason why he's doing this, because basically he goes home Tuesday, and then he spends all week with his kids. So, that's a big part of this.
Yeah. I think once his kids graduate, maybe. That's a potential. Once his kids are grown adults, he might get back into it. His wife might not want that. But I think the benefits of not being, here's the thing, being an NFL head coach is a job, if you saw Dennis Allen since Thanksgiving of last year, when's the last time you saw Dennis Allen you were like, this guy is enjoying himself? Dennis Allen, I have probably not seen an instance of Dennis Allen enjoying himself, ever. Not once. He doesn't even enjoy himself in the spring. He's like, at the end of the day, I'm going to lose my job. That's how it felt with Dennis Allen. And that's how most NFL head coaches, there's a few happy National Football League head coaches. You don't see National Football League head coaches giving the NBA interview. The happy-go-lucky, this is fun type of thing. I understand. I understand the people who think Jon Gruden isn't going to come back for that reason. And Jon Gruden, like I said, he continues to pad his resume. He gets people to think he's smarter than he actually potentially is, too. We also don't forget that. The huge risk of him coming back is it not going well. And that's not saying that it won't. But I think the prevailing thing is it's a 50-50. It's not there's a slight chance he'll do terrible. There's a real, realistic possibility that the Oakland Raiders could still not be good with Jon Gruden. Mm-hmm. And I think if the Raiders drafted first, second, or third, and he's going to come in, maybe there's that chance. That is something that I could see happening. I think that could happen. The Oakland Raiders are probably looking at another chance at the top 5. A lot of people have them pegged for the first pick. And while we talked about that and we talked about college, I actually want to list all the people who over the last couple of weeks said Marcus Mariota will go to the Oakland Raiders. Those people need to be slapped. Like, grab their iPhones and step on them. They don't deserve Twitter at all. Like, if Twitter jail existed, those people would be in Guantanamo Bay right now. If I was
getting waterboarded.
Okay. But yeah, I think the Oakland Raiders are sticking with Derek Carr. We talked about the state of the Oakland Raiders while we wrap this thing up. And I think a lot of people think, here's the thing, Mike Davis is going to pay you a lot of money. Your bank account is going to be nice. It's California, so California isn't, if you're going to coach in a place, Northern California, you're going to get to live up in the Bay. So when you come home for the 3.5 hours you have off every day, you'll have a nice place. So that's nice for that. And if things go well, you're going to be a hero. You're going to be a folk hero if things go right. So there's a lot of benefits for that. I think everyone knows that if the Oakland Raiders are doing well, it's going to be a good job to have. And people who are passionate about coaching, but the problem is I just don't see bringing in, like I said, the age of these coaches and the status of some of the coaches that people want. And it's not just Mike Davis wanting Jon Gruden. Mike Davis wants Jon Gruden because people enable this. I am an enabler. I'm enabling everyone with the Jon Gruden thing. I'm sorry. The Gruden watch is just too cool, so I apologize for enabling. Like, somebody's got to get the page views, Rory. Somebody's got to get the Gruden page views. My bosses will want it to be me, so we have the Gruden watch. But
that's just called good marketing.
It's called good marketing, and it's better. It's better than talking about the fact that the Raiders own 4, and talking about the fact that Miles Burris is still our middle linebacker. Like, hey.
Well, I said in the offseason you had to go get a real middle linebacker, but nobody listened to me.
You have to find these things, Rory. You have to find proof, definitive proof. I know our buddy Eric at Oakland 627, who is getting a rare Twitter follower shout out on our podcast. Individual shout out. Did say the Raiders needed a veteran middle linebacker. But my problem is with the hindsight Henrys out there, and that's because it's alliteration, of course, is you can't be like, oh, they should have got Carlos Dansby, because Carlos Dansby didn't want to go to Oakland. He wanted to go to Cleveland. He was going to get all of the snaps. So I didn't cutting Kevin Burnett maybe, but he takes snaps from Khalil Mack and C.O. Moore, but Miles Burris is terrible. And I think the Raiders, there's a good column out about the Raiders needing to get healthy that we have on the website from today that just came out from our staff writer, Vic Lopez. And this Raiders team for Tony Sperano is going to be very challenging if guys like C.O. Moore, Khalil Mack, and Nick Roach aren't in there. Because as we saw in London, this defense is just terrible without those players.
well, I still will come down and say that a significant part of it is play calling. But yes, they do lack. Without those guys, they lack serious talent. I mean, I can go look for it, but I wrote early on in the free agency. See, because I don't view Nick Roach as a middle linebacker. I'm sorry, he's not a middle linebacker. He's not a true Mike. People think that you automatically plug in Nick Roach and all of a sudden this run defense is fixed. Not happening. He can move laterally very, very well, but he does not take on blockers well. He does not shed blocks well, and frankly, he's not a big time. He's not necessarily a sure tackler all the time. He gets, he's not the strongest linebacker. He gets blown through a lot, and I've said early on in the process, look, what I wanted to do was get a real Mike linebacker and bump Nick Roach to the weak side, which is where he belongs. He played weak side for Chicago. That's where he should be playing. He should not be a middle linebacker at all. And early on, I said the guy I wanted was Spikes from New England, and he went to Buffalo for $3.5 million. The same thing you were paying Nick Burnett. I mean, you couldn't go offer him $5 million and bring him to Oakland? He got a 1 year, $3.5 million contract to go to Buffalo. That's it. I mean, you couldn't offer him 1 year, $5 million to come to Oakland. That was the guy I wanted, and I think that if you plug him in the middle of that Raiders defense, you fix a ton of problems. That to me is an issue. I don't even think that putting Nick Roach in is necessarily going to make a huge difference. To me, the issue right now with the defense primarily is play calling. The reason why the run defense suffers most of the time is because they start asking the defensive linemen to two-gap, especially with Justin Tuck. They'll ask him, okay, you go and engage that tackle, and then you have to decide. You have to try to control both gaps, and then you pick which one, depending on where the runner's going. And most of the time he can't handle it. He can't get off the block once he engages because that's not his strong suit. He's a penetrator. He gets upfield, heads to the quarterback. That's what he does. So that's why most of the time when they line him up on a guard or in between the guard and tackle, he blows through him, just like when he sacked Tom Brady. It's exactly what he did. He just blew right through him. So the problem to me is misuse. I don't think they're using the players right. I think it's play calling. It's a usage issue. They need to penetrate. They need to get downhill at the running backs. It's got to be one of those things where, I can't believe I'm mentioning it, but when you ever hear Warren Sapp talk about how he played the three technique under Tony Dungy, it was get to the quarterback first, and if he happens to hand the ball off, then hit the running back. Well, the Raiders need to have that sort of defensive line mentality if they're going to be successful, because that's what all their personnel does. None of them are two-gappers. Even a guy like McGee at Oklahoma, he was recruited as a one-gapping defensive tackle. So I'm not to me, that's the issue. I mean, I guess you could say Ellis, the Jelly, did some, but even so, even for his size, what he did very well was collapse the pocket, not stay in one position at the point of attack and then decide. I mean, he blew up the pocket very, very well, knocking blockers back into the ball carrier. So for me, that's the biggest issue. Play calling first and foremost. But yeah, secondly, they do need a true middle linebacker, and I don't think Nick Roach is it. Personally, I think what Nick Roach provides most is he's the quarterback of the defense. So he aligns everybody very well. He knows the scheme, all that stuff. But you can teach someone to do that. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think that immediately getting healthy is going to be the issue. I could completely see this defense utilizing Burris in a different way, especially if you were to move him to the outside in a similar way that you use CO. But I could see them do something like that and be fairly effective using Burris differently, calling different plays, and not having the same issues that they're having now. So I don't know. We're just going to have to see, but I don't necessarily put it all on the injuries defensively. A lot of the blame for me goes to Tarver.
Yeah, you could blame Jason Tarver because Jason Tarver isn't going to be here anymore. So you can do that. Because that might be a little harsh on Jason Tarver, but I'll say Jason Tarver has looked at other jobs by now, probably in the last couple of days. So, yeah. It's hard really to talk. For me, it's just hard to talk about the Oakland Raiders. We'll figure it out when we see it on Sunday, and we'll be back. We'll preview the Chargers game on this podcast as well, because we'll be back to a full schedule now that I'm a little bit more settled. We might be moving to more of a nighttime or late afternoon schedule. It's nice until daylight savings time. I'm 2 hours ahead of you, Rory, so that works out.
Yeah.
And it's also halftime of the NCAA games, so let's try to bang this out in the next 30 minutes here and finish it up. We've had some good
for Notre Dame tied up at 7, I think, right?
Yeah, I got Notre Dame money line. Money line.
Yeah. Of course you do.
2.3. 2.3.
And you got Bob Stoops. And you got Bob Stoops chucking long balls all day long in Oklahoma.
Oh, did they get another touchdown?
I don't know. I'm just seeing the highlight right now.
Tough.
It's 21-24. Horned Frogs are up.
Yeah.
And Texas. You know the other. Okay, another name I should mention only because I don't know if it'll actually happen, but it'd be great if Chuck Strong gets fired from Texas.
He's not going to get fired from Texas.
I'm just saying. Well, there were some donors that didn't like the fact that he was hired or whatever. But if he ever got fired from Texas, I'd want him to.
Yeah. He can't coach national. He can't coach National Football League players when he's drug testing all these damn kids every second day. You kidding me?
Yeah, but you can't. But you can't do that in the NFL. You got a CBA. It's different.
Yeah, that's true. Whatever.
All right, so we get into the lines. Is that what we want to do?
Yeah, let's wrap this up. That's our take on the coaching situation. We'll talk more of it next week, but hey, it's the bye week, so let's try to make some money because that's what I'll be doing tomorrow because the bye week's the best week. You want to know why, Rory? Because I can watch it all. Well, no, because you guys all know I could care less if the Raiders lose. I'm pretty objective. I'm pretty objective in the sense that I want you guys to have a good Sunday. So based on the fact of I succumbed to peer pressure, I picked the Raiders 3 times in my pool this year. 3 times. Like this is my life. Like they've been killing me, right? But
so I had updated scores. Okay, so updated scores. So we went 7-8 first week, 9-8 second week. I had 10. You had 7 third week. Week 4, a dismal 6, and you had 7. You're very consistent, always around 7 or 8. So right now it's 32-30. I'm ahead. As of now. But we both for 2 Thursdays in a row we hit the Thursday game. Actually, I think it might be 3 or 4 in a row. We hit the Thursday game in Green Bay. Yeah. So we'll roll from there.
Yeah. We both got Green Bay.
Yeah. In a real snoozer.
Yeah. You know what sucks? I dropped the Raiders defense for Packers on NFL.com, and they don't automatically start that defense. Yeah. So I earned 22 fictional points, and I have to pick a new defense for Sunday. It's great. But I have Rod Streeter on my team, so I can drop him. But we're going to start with Chicago, Carolina, or you got the Lions, so you can talk it. You just talk the Lions here.
Yeah. I got the sportsbook open. Yeah, so I actually when I wrote them all down, I wrote it down at 2.5. So that's what I had. That's what it opened as. But right now, it looks like Bovada has it at negative. That's Carolina -3.
No, let's just use your lines. I don't give a shit. I think the lines are going to change.
All right, so then I have all the originals, what they opened at. So that's what we'll use.
Okay.
But for those who are interested, I'll also give the updated too as we go.
Yeah.
But so this started off at -2.5 for Carolina. It's moved to -3. What do you got? I got Chicago.
I got Smoking Jay Cutler in this game. Yeah, give me Chicago.
All right. Smoking Jay. Okay. Then we got Cleveland, Tennessee. This started off at Tennessee -1. It's moved to Tennessee -1.5.
Cleveland.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So far we're 3 for 3. We're the same. St. Louis, Philly started off -8, moved to -7. So it looks like the public's going on. No, it's probably the Sharps that are moving on St. Louis then.
7? 7? Or 7.5?
Well, it started at 8, but it's moved to 7. It started at 8, but it moved to 7. Yeah.
Eagles. No, I'll take Eagles.
There's even some that have it at 6.5. You're taking Eagles?
Yeah, I'll take the Eagles.
Okay. I'm taking St. Louis.
Hey, the consensus train has stopped.
It's officially stopped. Yeah. All right, we got Falcons, Giants. Giants started at -3. It's moved to -4.
Yeah, it's tough.
Who do you got?
Yeah,
I didn't like this line personally. I thought this was a garbage line.
Falcons.
Falcons? All right, I'm taking Giants.
Oh.
Not that I want to. I'm grudgingly taking the Giants.
Yeah.
You got Tampa Bay, New Orleans. Started at New Orleans -11. What's it moved to? Actually, it's sitting right at -11.
Mm-hmm.
So, who do you got?
I hate, you guys all know how much I hate two-score favorites. It's always tough. But Tampa Bay is terrible. So
They did beat Pittsburgh last week.
They did beat Pittsburgh, but that means that they're going to come crashing down. So, hey, let me check. I will have to check something out here.
Personally, I can't lay 11. I don't care if it's New Orleans, in New Orleans. I can't lay 11. I just roll with Tampa Bay, and you would know what's his face in the defensive backfield, although he hasn't been very good anyways.
Jarvis Bird.
You know him?
Yeah,
I don't know. I just give it a shot.
Remember when everyone wanted him? Everyone wanted Jarvis Bird.
Yeah. Who's played miserable, by the way, but I think that's more of a Rob Ryan issue.
Well, everyone wants Rob. Rob Ryan's another name. We didn't talk about Rob Ryan because we have some
most overrated coach in the NFL.
Yeah, we have some common damn sense. We'll talk Harbaugh next week because Tim Kawakami level people like talking about Harbaugh and the Raiders, so we can do that. Topical.
That's a very long discussion.
Yeah, it's a very long discussion, and we're picking against the spread, so let's keep it going.
Yeah, so who do you got? I'm taking Tampa Bay. What do you want? New Orleans? Tampa Bay. New Orleans, Tampa Bay.
Give me Tampa Bay.
All right. See, you're coming to your senses.
Mm-hmm.
Watch, Tampa Bay's going to have another 60-14 game.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to Houston at Dallas. Dallas -4. This line's actually moved Dallas -6.
And a half.
I'm seeing sub 6.5. I'm even seeing 1-7 because my app actually has.
Whether it's 4 or 6.5, it's irrelevant if it's over 3, in my opinion. That's kind of how I view it. But
that's a pretty significant movement. There's definitely money. There's a lot of money flowing one way right now.
You know what? Give me the Texans. Give me the Texans.
Texans. All right, I'm taking Dallas.
Here's my reasoning because I like to give some reasoning. Well, obviously, Ryan Fitzpatrick can get it against the Dallas Cowboys defense. And J.J. Watt's going to kill Tony Romo at some point. So, there you go. I also like that DJ Swearinger guy. But this might be one of these where I've watched them, once really long playing the Raiders, and then we'll be getting the everyone looks good against Oakland theory coming in. That's not really a theory I talk about too often because I'm not Evan Silva. So, we're not Roto-World. I don't understand. They should really have something like that. I'm giving them a free idea. Anyone at Roto-World, write that, and you'll probably get a lot of pages. So, send me beer money. That's all.
Well, the sad thing is they couldn't do, Jacksonville makes everyone look good because there's not enough Jacksonville fans to care.
Yeah.
So, realistically, the only team you can really do that with is Oakland, which sucks. All right, Cleveland. Buffalo at Detroit. Or Cleveland, that's another good one. But Cleveland actually won a game. Buffalo at Detroit. Detroit's -7. And this line's holding pretty much the whole way across. I see 1-7.5 on my app, but it's holding at 7, looks like.
Oh, they're not starting EJ Manuel, are they, Buffalo?
No, they're starting Orton.
Either. Oh, well, I'm obviously taking the Lions. This is not 2006. You'd have to be high or drunk to be taking. I'd hope high, because that would be a better excuse to be drunk.
I'm completely sober, and I'm taking Buffalo.
Whatever.
I'm taking him. I'm not late. I'm telling you.
You've been drinking cider all day. That's what you've been doing.
No, I have not. I wish I was though. All right, Baltimore to Indianapolis. Well, I'm going to my in-laws tonight, so I'll probably have a few. Baltimore at Indianapolis. Indianapolis -3. The line's pretty stable. I'm taking Baltimore personally. I have zero faith in this Indianapolis team.
Where's that line again? What's the line?
-3, Indy.
Ooh, that's gonna be a good football game. It's gonna be a good game. Yeah, it's 3.5.
No, it's 3.
Oh,
it opened at 3. I thought the same thing.
Baltimore has some good momentum because they just whooped the living shit out of the Panthers. So,
Indianapolis played 2 good weeks though.
Yeah, but Indianapolis' defense is just terrible. Mm-hmm. This is my problem with Indianapolis.
And the offensive line's garbage. And they didn't I think no Mewhort this week too, and he's been surprisingly decent.
Yeah. You know, I'd rather be taking than giving points in that situation. So
Baltimore?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, let's go Baltimore. Plus, if I go consensus for the point of this competition, it's better.
All right. You got Pitt at Jacksonville. Pitt's a favorite by 6. So the line's actually moved to 7 over the course of the week. But at 6 points, I'm taking Pitt.
At 6, yeah. I would never lay 7 points. Like, I would never lay my own personal money on that, but give me this. Like, I'm just letting
Jacksonville's been crazy because, Jacksonville's been crazy, right? So, because week 1, Jacksonville laid like 17, right?
Never mind. Give me Jacksonville.
You want Jacksonville?
Oh, yeah, because is Bortles still starting for Jacksonville?
Bortles is starting, yeah.
Yeah, if I don't have to lay the money on Chad Henne, yeah. I don't like Pittsburgh's defense is old as hell. They're not going to – Blake Bortles will get some rushing yards. Also, if you have a book that will take the over on Blake Bortles, anything, take one of those. Maybe rushing yards.
This is what I was going to say, because I know the Jacksonville defense is really sketchy. Oh, crap.
But Pittsburgh's defense is really sketchy as well. Over.
Well, I know. That's why I was going to say what I would do is take the over is 45.5. I would have taken the over.
You could tease that.
I don't even know if I want to. Well, I guess you could, but I would almost take it straight and just take, do the money line at 45 or not the money line, but do the 45.5 and take the over on it, because I think they may blow that score out of them. Just blow it way past it. I can easily see this game being somewhere in the vicinity of like 30, like 34-20, 34-21, something like that. So yeah, I think a lot of offense in that game. So here we go. Arizona at Denver. Denver laying 8.5.
Laying 8. Give me Arizona. Giddy up. Giddy up, Arizona.
All right, I'm taking Denver. I don't know why. I just for some reason you know me. I always take the dog when laying that many points. But I'm taking Denver in that one.
It's a hard game because Denver has every right to cover. But you know what happens when every time I lay Denver, you know what happens? Some stupid crap happens. Like in the playoffs last year when they were playing and I had them on the spread and Eric Decker contributed to 21 points not going on the board. Like that's the type of thing that happens to me when I bet on the Broncos. I know he doesn't play for them anymore, but that's just what happens. I just can't lay the Broncos as favorites. They just never do.
There's something about this Drew Stanton bubble I don't buy. I just can't see Drew Stanton coming out for 3 weeks and actually being half decent. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I cannot consciously take Arizona on this one. All right, so we got KC and San Francisco. San Francisco laying 6.5. Well, this line also pretty stable.
Obviously, lay Kansas City in this game.
Kansas City. I'm taking San Francisco.
No, here. I'm just gonna say because I'm a person who isn't gonna let people bet on San Francisco in this situation. If this is a game with this type of situation, this type of narrative, and the fact that the 49. Here's another thing. I had the Eagles money line last Sunday, Rory, and this is why you should never get angry. A memo to Chip Kelly: when you have the ball on the 1 yard line, maybe don't call 2 passing plays. I know you like to. I knew you don't like to win championships because you obviously showed everyone that in Oregon. But people put money on these type of things, Chip Kelly. So you're not just letting yourself and the city of Philadelphia down. You're also letting people like me down. And in America, when you don't win, criminals come to your door and ask for that type of money. So you're putting people's lives at risk, Chip Kelly. I hope you know. Run the damn football. God, that's my gambling grant of the week.
Jets at San Diego. San Diego laying 7.
7. Giants. Who's playing? Who are they playing?
Jets. Jets at San Diego. San Diego laying 7.
Oh, that's a great line for the Jets. That's a great line. Jets defense.
I'm taking Jets.
Yeah. Jets defense and ground game. That's what you're going to get a steady diet of. They're going to be really motivated after losing a bunch of close games, I feel. And they're probably really pissed off about losing to the Bears. So, good spot. I think it's a good spot for the Jets. And San Diego's kind of been coasting along, so I think they're going to get smacked in the mouth a little bit. And credit to San Diego. They're playing good football. So, that's
I personally see the Jets winning this game outright. I don't like this matchup for San Diego. I'm not, overly impressed with. I've never really been impressed with San Diego's defense. We'll see what they can really do here. And their offense too. No running backs. You're probably gonna get a heavy dose of Keenan Allen. However, San Diego's offensive line garbage. I think Jets can dominate up front. And the moment you frazzle Phillip Rivers, that dude's toast. We've seen that as Raider fans. We all remember last year's San Diego game at the butt crack part of night when the Raiders beat the San Diego Chargers. And with all the turnovers. So, I don't know. I see Jets winning that game outright. All right, we got Cincinnati at New England. I have this as a pick-em, but this is moved to Cincinnati -1.5. So I was actually going to ask you, do you want to do this as a pick-em, or do you want to do this with what the line is now?
Yeah, it's up to
Because I'm seeing stuff all over the place. I'm seeing, I think since we've done opening, let's just do it as a pick-em. That's what the opening was. And if it's going to be pick-em, I'm taking Cincinnati.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter regardless. But I have to take Cincinnati. But I know that it's a very tough spot because of the fact that even though as you've heard numerous times this season, I don't buy the New England Patriots whole thing where everyone just gives them a hand job about everything they do. So I for one have been thoroughly enjoying getting to witness the New England Patriots look like a mediocre football team with a bunch of guys from Rutgers on the team. Let's draft all the people from Rutgers. Rutgers. They were in the Big East until 4 days ago. That is something that you should be like, that might be a problem. But when everyone was too busy giving Bill Belichick love for everything he does, they stopped and didn't notice that Rutgers is a terrible football school. Goodness. So I'm going to be on Cincinnati. So I'm just going to be on Cincinnati because I just can't cheer for them getting out of that funk. Because I want to see them not only miss the playoffs, I want to see them miss it terribly. And guess what? It wouldn't even be good for them because guess what, Rory? They'll just draft more people from schools like Rutgers. That's what's going to happen. Goodness.
Don't worry. Everybody in Raider Nation has been very, very happy with the last week. But it's kind of tough seeing the Patriots get killed by Kansas City. That's tough because we hate Kansas City, but
No, it's not.
Whatever.
No.
We still have more championships in Kansas City. That's all that matters.
Yeah, because pretty much at the end of the day, the Chiefs and the Chargers aren't going to win the Super Bowl. They can win as many games as you want. In fact, the more games the Chargers and the Chiefs win, you get to enjoy January when you gamble against them, and then they lose. Like last year, when me and my friends sat in my living room and drank beers and did some other things. Win us a ton of money. So this is why you want them to win. The payoff at the end is better than the disappointment of during the year because they're going to lose. And like I said last year, the Broncos aren't going to win the Super Bowl again this year. So you just want those teams to win as much as possible so they get painful losses. Because the Oakland Raiders, really, we're playing with house money. If you're a fan, you're playing with house money. That's what you're doing. So just cheer.
All right, Seattle at Washington.
Seattle, Washington. This is
Washington getting 8.5.
Yeah, this is the Gruden game because he's so focused. Jon Gruden, the only thing Jon Gruden is focused on is not just calling Monday Night Football, calling his brother on Monday Night Football. Like, I wonder if he actually said that. I don't even think he said that. Like, I would say ESPN was just like, can we say that? And they're like, okay. Because, like, that whole thing, I was just like, not only it wasn't from, like, the ESPN account. It was from the Monday Night Football ESPN account. The audacity of ESPN, Rory. They're just like, fuck
Washington
you.
getting 8.5.
8.5. 8.5. Well, Kirk Cousins is still starting. So,
Could be worse. Could be RG3.
Don't be like that. They're both terrible.
I said from day one that RG3 was not going to work in a Jay Gruden offense. I knew it wasn't going to happen. Like, I don't know why they ever got away, even under Shanahan, why they ever even got away from the, like, pistol spread with all the screens. Like, why they ever did away with that was beyond me. I don't know, because it's the only thing he knows how to do. So, me personally, Seattle away from home, can't trust them. Laying 8.5, I'll take the dog. So I'm taking Washington.
Yeah, it's on Monday Night Football. Because I'm a sucker for underdogs on Monday Night Football, and I've done extremely well with dogs on Monday Night Football recently, and because this team's at home on Monday Night Football, we'll go Redskins. And I said Redskins because I made a terrible mistake. This is the first time I have said that terrible word on accident. Because I have it wired on my brain just to not say it, Rory. So I apologize. I apologize for saying
Redskins. I'll make it up for you.
When the name gets changed, I'm sending you the new gear they have, and you're gonna have to wear it on the podcast.
Did you ever see the what was it? Oh, I think I might still have it on my phone. But it was for all those offended by the name Redskins. Here are all the other things you should be offended by too. And so like it had all the other.
I don't care about your right-wing memes.
Oh, stop it! No, but some of them are actually funny.
Somewhere. But aren't we done picks?
No, because the Raiders one was promotes pillaging, and rape, something like that. And same thing with the Vikings one, and the Jets one was there were some pretty funny ones, but yeah. All you little wussies that can't handle the name Redskins, which was originally created by Native Americans in the beginning to identify themselves when exchanging goods, but that's not the point. Facts are irrelevant to this discussion.
Well, that's all. Well, I believe the second half are starting in the NCAA games, right? Good timing. I commend you for starting early. A terrible pass.
You commend me for starting early? Yeah. Everson Golson, didn't he just? Oh, yeah. Oh, he almost threw a pick right to. It always looks bad, too, when you have one safety sitting right behind a linebacker.
Sorry to anyone in California who cheers for Stanford. And if you do, you're probably pretty lame. I'm sorry, but, like, Stanford doesn't seem like a very California school. Like, it seems like all the lame people in California. Like, you either go to Stanford or aspired at one point to go to Stanford and were just like that guy in high school that nobody invited to hang out ever. And even if you wanted to hang out with that guy, he was like, I'm studying hard so I can get into Stanford. That guy. That is Stanford. Except
and you want to know where those guys work?
Where?
They work in Silicon Valley, and you want to know what they do? Make a lot of money and get laid a lot. So it doesn't really matter.
You know what, Rory? I make a moderate amount of money, and I get laid a lot because I have a girlfriend. And I also didn't have to go to school for 4 years and spend every day of my high school life sitting at home. But anyways, we'll wrap it on that because I don't think we're hitting any comedy high notes more than that, Rory. What day do you want to podcast next week?
Whatever, I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. But any day really works. I just gotta I'll just have to make sure I know what I'm going to do that day. And I don't have a job to work around at the point, so we'll figure it out. It's not really that big of a deal, but any day really works, especially if we're going to be doing them later. Yeah. It don't really matter.
Okay. well, we will let you know. And we thank everyone for continuing to listen to the Just Blog Baby podcast on YouTube. This will be on justblogbaby.com as well on YouTube later. And really, guess what? We ran a pretty good podcast, so we won't have to edit anything out, Rory. So that's good for us. But anyways, this was the bi-week edition of the Just Blog Baby podcast. You can find us on justblogbaby.com. Myself on Twitter at Chase Ruttig, Rory at Holistic Pickle, and you can also find us on Facebook and on the Bleacher Report team stream because they occasionally have us there as well. So, other than that, I'm Chase Ruttig, and you guys are on your own. Enjoy some college football and bye-week NFL. And if you trail against the spread picks, Rory lives in America, so it's easier to find him and break his kneecaps. Always remember that. Always remember you can find Rory easier than you can find me. You'll have to trek through the Canadian border to get to me. Crazy people. But anyways, signing off.
You have to avoid all the Mounties with the crazy red uniforms.
Yeah, I live by the police station now, Rory, too. It's nice. I'm nice and safe. I live, literally, in my new place, I live, the police station is right, I go throw out my trash, and the police station's right there. It's great. Yeah.
Nobody's breaking into your place.
Yeah. But anyways, after our intro, I'm going to go watch these games, so
alrighty.
You guys are on your own. See you guys next week. Take care. Thanks for listening. This was the Just Blog Baby podcast.